One was trust your gut, and I think again because of the world that we've created, we tend to trust books and we trust our intuition, and sometimes I think the information that we've received throughout our lives should be an influence to your gut feeling, if that makes sense. One of the things that I learned going through advertising is a few things. One, you're employed because you think differently, and that was a big reminder to me, was the fact that I do think differently. I'm not employable in every organisation. I'm fireable in 95% of the organisations, but I think differently. I do things differently, and for a long time, especially at the beginning of my career, I saw that as a weakness because I kept wanting to do the things that my boss praised me for. Well, I thought my boss would praise me for, as opposed to going, hey, if we did it this way, it's never been done before. That's really bloody interesting. And where that has turned into something in terms of leadership is sometimes the decisions that I think leaders need to make are not based on any realities. They need to be based on, am I going to back this up in my heart and my head? So that was one thing. The second thing we touched on, which was given how quickly the world is changing, is just to never stop learning, never stop talking to people. I ran so you'll remember from Singapore, there's a huge community of taxi uncles, or taxi drivers who are called taxi uncles. And it's one of my favourite parts of the day is having a 10-minute ride in the taxi and talking to a gentleman who is, so you have to be Singaporean to be a taxi driver. Most of them are over the age of 50. They're starting to get a little bit younger now, but they've got the most awesome stories. Just awesome. And most people don't want to talk to them because they're taxi drivers. And yet they've got so much that we can learn from. And whether it's just pure historical information about the country, about the change that's happened or what have you, that's one point. But the other point is these guys speak to 50 people a day. And so they have inputs from 50 different, many different cultures, many different ages, sexes, religions, the whole thing. And they will tell you what they think of that if you ask them. But again, not enough people ask them. So I did a competition at work, which was the coolest story that you could find from a taxi uncle. And I got my staff to start talking just to get information going. And it was awesome. We found out the most hilarious stuff. We found out about which buildings were haunted. We found out about which businesses were doing well, which ones weren't. We found out about the party scene in the middle of the night on Orchard Road. I mean, it was just awesome. And that was from having your arms open. Now, a lot of the people were arms-closed people. They didn't want to do it, but when they realised they could get a free holiday out of it, they opened their arms up. It was actually about getting my staff to keep learning. Go and have a conversation. That you will learn a hell of a lot out there. And again, and follow on from that is one of the things that I encourage is for people to leave the office. I get so sick of people answering problems through Google. Take the afternoon off. Go to a movie. I'm fine with it. Go and see what's going on in the real world. Go and sit in a cafe for a couple of hours and watch. My request is that you bring your observations back. I don't want you to just sit there and have a cup of coffee. That's awesome if you do. Take some time out. But if you come back and go, it was really interesting. I was watching this group of XYZs doing XYZ, and I think there's something interesting here. And you go, wow, well that was worth every second or every penny of you taking an hour out to go and sit in a cafe. That observation is what our business is about. And the final thing is, as I mentioned, I've always been quite passionate, but I've also been quite disciplined with stuff as well. So, one of the things that I go on about is plan, execute, obsess. And the obsessed thing is to me is really, I love being obsessive. Because that to me it has a negative connotation, but that's just being passionate about the things that you've decided to do. So it's that the responsibility and the accountability to say, I've planned this, I think this is what we need to do, and then I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it's successful. And then it's my job to do everything I can to support that success. So then it goes back into that funnel of how we inspire, how we support, how we grow, how we build, how we let people stuff up. And as long as, again, continuous learning, love stuff ups, tell me what you've learned, tell me what you're not going to do again, then that's awesome.
Wow.